Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit. Today we are joined by Jonathan Hawkins, who is the founder of Law Firm GC and the host of the Founding Partner Podcast. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Can we start out? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Law Firm GC, and a little bit about the Founding Partner Podcast?
Sure. So I'm a lawyer based here in Atlanta, Georgia. Our law firm is Law Firm GC. We focus on representing lawyers and law firms in their business-related needs. Usually when I tell people I represent lawyers, they immediately go to, oh, you represent them in malpractice cases. And the answer, personally, no, I don't. My partner does. But we basically soup to nuts. If you're a law firm and you have a business legal issue, we can help you out there. Founding Partner Podcast is a podcast. We just, maybe next week, will be on our second year anniversary. It is a weekly podcast where I interview founding attorneys and talk about their journeys and sort of the issues they encountered and lessons they've learned. And hopefully we provide good advice for other people out there that maybe started a firm or thinking about it.
That's awesome. Congrats on the anniversary.
Thank you.
That's going to be great. Now, I'm curious, when people come to Law Firm GC, when lawyers come to Law Firm GC specifically, what are some of the problems and pain points that they're experiencing? Why do lawyers need a business lawyer?
Great question. And it's funny, when I tell lawyers what I do and what we do, they always sort of step back and like, wow, I didn't know anyone did that. It's such a great idea. So, the two main reasons that people come to me personally, I'll say the two main one, and then we'll go to the third one, is really if lawyers are coming together or making changes to their partnership. And so we do a lot of partnership agreements, a lot of that. And it can be two people coming together that were not together, or maybe an owner is bringing up for the first time a new partner from internally. So that's a big piece of what I do. Another big piece is sort of on the back end, and that's when partnerships are falling apart and breaking up. I call them law firm breakups. And so those are the two main reasons. And those two areas really, they in my mind, they really complement each other. Every time I do a law firm breakup, I learn a new lesson, and then that lesson makes its way into my future partnership agreements. And so it's this virtuous cycle in terms of everything just getting better and better and better. So those are two main reasons. The third that I'm seeing more and more of are, I'll call it succession planning. And that means a lot of things in the law firm context, but really transitioning out of a practice. And that can mean selling it to an external person, selling it to an internal person, retiring, merging. It can mean a lot of things, but those are the three main areas that people come to me for.
And I'm curious, what is do you work with, I guess the word I'm looking for is scale. What is the scale of the law firms that you work with? Are they major law firms? Are they small practices? Is it varied? What does that look like?
Great question. So the mega firms, the really, really, really big ones, I do not work with them. They've got teams and teams internally. They do their own stuff. Typically. Right. Excuse me. The firms that I primarily work with, I'd call them small to medium. And that's anywhere from, let's say, 2 attorneys. I've got a couple that are probably in the 150 attorney range, but those are sort of outliers there. If I had to pick a number, I would say 5 to 25 lawyers, really the sweet spot.
And what Law Firm GC does is it's really unique. And I'm curious, when did you realize that there was a need for something like Law Firm GC in that space? What was that moment? When did you realize that you needed to found something like Law Firm GC?
This is a great question. And I talk to a lot of young lawyers about finding their niche, finding the practice that they really want
Mm.
to do forever. Because a lot of people start in an area that they don't stick with because they just don't like it. And that happened to me too. I started out in med mal defense. It was fun. I got a lot of experience, but within a couple of years, I knew that's not what I wanted to do long term.
Right.
And so before I really got into representing lawyers, I did a lot of, I call it business divorce work. So closely held businesses of all types breaking apart. My dad is an attorney, or was. He's retired now, in my hometown. And we were just talking shop, and he said, he's like, "You're doing business divorces." He's like, "Over the last, 2-3 years, I've done 4 or 5 law firm breakup cases. If there's this many down here, there has to be a ton of these in Atlanta. You should just look into it." So I looked into it, and I looked around Atlanta, and sure enough, I'm reading the daily legal newspapers. I'm looking at old articles, and high-profile law firm breakups are going on everywhere. And there was not a lawyer that I could find that had planted a flag and said, "This is what I do." It was
Right.
just a hodgepodge of different people. And that's when I said, "All right, I'm going to go dominate that niche." And that's how it started.
Yeah.
And I went and learned everything about it. And then from that, the rest of this grew. And that, again, so I did the breakups first, then the partnership agreements, and then we started filling in the spaces in between. And I probably started down the path about 15 years ago.
Wow. And
So,
it's like they say, right? The riches are in the niches.
so true. So true. It is so true.
Now, I'm curious, what are some of the common things that you see that are, you mentioned you do a lot of sort of, law firm breakups, if you will, these lawyer breakups. What are some of the common causes for those breakups that you see?
I would say there's 2 main ones. The first one I would say are built up resentments.
Mm.
Underneath that, there's a whole lot of stuff.
Right.
Fights
Right.
about money, fights about you're not contributing. We could go on and on and on, but I would sum it up by saying it is pent up resentment that explodes. And it takes a while for that to happen. The other, which is
Yeah.
sort of funny, is the end of a lease, the end of the office lease.
Oh, right.
So there may not be the pent up resentment, but everybody looks around and says, "Do we want to recommit to another 5 to 8 years?" And sometimes they say, "Yeah, no, we don't want to do it." So that's a
Right.
second interesting big cause, or big trigger point, I'll say.
Is there something that you think law firm owners that are in a partnership, is there something you think they could do to sort of avoid that eventual breakup?
Well, I'll say this. Partnerships are going to end.
Right.
One way or another, they're going to end. It could be because somebody died, somebody retired. There's lots of reasons why it could happen. Maybe one partner just doesn't want to do it anymore. So it's not like
Right.
they're mad or whatever. And so you need to prepare for that, and you need to get a good agreement in place for that. So that's the first part. So you need to know that it's going to end at some point, even if it's not through some sort of ill will. And then the other part, I tell and counsel a lot of people, and this would apply to any partnership, not just law firms. And that is, before you go into it, you and the other partner or partners really need to sit down and explore. It's almost like pre-marriage counseling almost. What's the vision? What are your values? What's your work ethic? Some people share personal financials, because
Right.
if one person is really hurting and need the money, they're going to act differently than the person that doesn't need the money. And so these exploratory conversations on the front end are very, very, very important. I know folks that have spent over a year exploring these sorts of things before they actually do it. Still doesn't mean that, guarantee they're going to have success, but certainly if you don't do it, the odds of not having success go way up.
Are there any sort of other common mistakes that you see law firm owners making, that maybe they made the mistake at launch and that mistake then returns to haunt them years later?
I'm trying to think what sorts of things.
I know that's a bit of a loaded question, right?
It is. There are all sorts of things. I'll say, no matter the size of the firm or the type of firm, I often talk about the first line of defense
Mm,
in terms of risk management, and that is the client retainer agreement.
mm,
And that's the contract they enter into when they get a client. Every firm, if you have one person or 500 lawyers, you still have those client retainer agreements. And many lawyers have just inherited or borrowed or whatever a version that they use from someone else. They've really given it no thought, and they just said, we're just going to use that. Maybe they've gone in and added some provisions here and there, not knowing whether they're truly enforceable or even allowed under the ethics rules, but they just throw them in there, and they really never, and once they've built it, they never look at it again, and they just use it and use it and use it. And so one of the first things we do when lawyers come to us is I ask them to send me over their retainer agreement. Sometimes they have multiple versions, and we go through that and really clean it up, strengthen it, and put it in a place I think that will help protect them. And also there's other, aspects to it that they can use it for. And that's, setting expectations with the client. This is how we do things. This is what we expect from you. All sorts of things. And you put it in that agreement, show it to the client at the beginning, they sign it, and it may come in very handy later if anything, or the relationship goes sideways.
right. And, I'm glad that you mentioned ethics, because that leads kind of perfectly into my next question. I'm curious, and I guess this extends probably further than just lawyers, but any kind of business partners. How can business partners ensure that their ethics align up front and not find themselves in a situation where there is a conflict in their personal values?
Great question. And that goes back to sort of that pre-partnership discussion. You really got to explore that. In the legal space, ethics has it's a term of art, I'll say. I mean, we have an ethics code that we have to abide by, that other professions may have their own different versions of that, but we have a pretty stringent version of that. And certainly if you think a lawyer's not ethical under the ethical rules, run as fast as you can the other way.
Right.
Number one, they will probably drag the firm down, and who knows what they'll do to you. So run the other way. But
Right.
certainly I think you need to align values. And the other thing I tell people about values and vision, they change over time.
Right.
I have met plenty of lawyers that they've made plenty of money. They want to go do something else.
Right.
And the other person wants to keep going hard. There's some, I know of some firms where one lawyer wants to keep it small and intimate, and the other one wants to grow it as big as they can. And at some point, that tension is going to have to be dealt with. And so the other piece of advice, and this goes for any business that has partnerships, communication. That is huge, huge, huge. If you let the resentments fester and build, they take on a life of their own, and it's really hard to come back from. It's better to it's just like a marriage. Put it on the table early before you get too mad about it later.
Right. Well, and that's what I was going to ask too. Is I mean, we've talked about these law firms that you help in these situations, and these business owners that you help in these situations. What does it look like if somebody needs the help of law firm GC and doesn't pursue that as an option and just keeps on doing what they've always done? Does it just fester, or how does that work?
They may not come to us, but eventually it's gonna happen. And many lawyers tell their clients, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Same applies for lawyers and their partnerships. It really makes sense to address these things on the front end instead of the back end. And look, I personally know of partnerships that are 35 plus years old that operate on a handshake.
Wow.
Nothing else. And it works until it doesn't.
Right.
And a big inflection point is when the founding partners start to retire or move on. The second, third, and fourth guard, the handshakes, it's just not the same dynamic. So if
Right.
nothing else, you got to have it in place when the next generation comes up into the partnership.
Yeah, can we talk? I'm curious. That's interesting. Can we talk a little bit about the role that succession planning plays in all of this? I mean, what does that look like?
So again, so in the law, at least the way I use it, the word succession planning means lots of things. So for example, for a solo attorney, succession planning, part of the succession planning would be, I call it a hit by the bus plan.
Mm,
If they are hit by a bus, there's a plan in place with a backup attorney that can come in and triage the practice
right.
and either sell it, transition it, make sure the clients are taken care of, make sure no malpractice happens, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one element. And some people call that succession planning. If you have a
Right.
partner, you usually deal with that in a partnership agreement. Usually is where you deal with that sort of thing. But then you get to the point where probably what most people think of succession planning, when I'm an older attorney ready to retire, how do I exit out of the firm and transition it to either someone internally that's younger that I've brought up that's ready to take over, or maybe I try to sell it or transition it to another firm altogether. And we do a lot of that. And uh, I'm sure some of your listeners have dealt with that in their businesses, but you can't wait till the last minute. That's the first thing I'll say. You
Right.
can't wait till 3 months before, hey, I'm ready to go in 3 months. Too late. I mean, you can get out, but it's not going to be that great for you. In my mind, you got to give it at least 3 years. 5 years is probably good, but even better than that would be you really start from the beginning with the end in mind, and things can change. But if you're always thinking about the end, you can make decisions along the way that really set you up nicely when that time comes.
Right. And is there? I mean, again, we discussed, some owners want to keep things small and intimate. Some want to grow the business as big as it can. Is sort of unexpected growth. I mean, because that can happen, right? That sort of unexpected growth. Is that sort of a wedge? Can that be a divide? Do you see that a lot? That growth is at the core of issues.
It can be, especially if the growth is uneven within the
Mm,
partnership, so to speak.
right, right,
And that goes back to sort of the resentments. Another issue in growth that I've seen a lot that can become an issue internally with a partnership. One partner wants to grow or maybe is growing and needs help, and they need to hire people. And the other
mm,
partner says, no, 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 no. I don't want to hire anybody. We don't need to grow anymore. I don't want to hire anybody. But the person that has all the work needs help, or else they're just going to kill themselves trying to do it all themselves. And so that can become a contentious issue. I've seen it. I've
right,
talked to others that, it takes months or many, many days or weeks, sometimes years to convince the other, "Hey, we need to do this. We need to do this." And they eventually come along, maybe not always. Maybe they do it begrudgingly. I don't know. But
right, right,
but growth can be an issue. It can create issues. It's not always the best thing. Ironically, maybe.
right. And I'm curious, when you're looking at, say you're looking at a law firm, right? And they've got great clients and great reviews, and they're making tons of money. Everything on the outside looks like it's going great. Are there any red flags that you can see up front that tell you that maybe behind that facade, everything is built on a sort of shaky foundation?
Yes and no. The first thing I'll say is there are plenty of law firms out there, businesses too, I'm sure, that from the outside look like they're killing it. It's the most successful enterprise in the world. But if you peek behind the curtain, they're running it's chaos. They're running on a shoestring profit margin, and it's just not a well-run business, and it's just a moment of when, not if, it's going to implode. That's the one thing I'll say. But one thing that I look at, and I may, if an attorney was coming to me and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to this firm," a young attorney, and I knew nothing about the firm at all, I would tell them, go look at their website and look at the age of the attorneys and the partners. One issue I've seen repeatedly is, and this goes back to succession planning too, is you have the old guard, the people that started it, and then the next generation maybe was not led into the partnership, or their advancement was stopped. They get sick of it and they leave. So then there's a gap between the top generation and then it's now the third. And then they see that, and then they sort of, same thing happens. They sort of leave. And then the gap just continues to grow. And then you get to the point where you've got some young attorneys and really old attorneys. And old is maybe not the word, but more experienced. And at that point, it's like a Jenga tower, that game, a Jenga. It's a wobbly thing. And in my view, it's inevitable that it's going to fall, because it really hurts. It's hard to recruit. It's hard to fill in those gaps. You're continually training, and it just becomes a situation that's not good. And eventually it's going to fall. And that is something you can sort of sense from the outside. Obviously, if you're interviewing and you're talking, you want to explore those issues. And one question that my last firm, when I joined it, before I started mine, I straight up asked them, "What's your runway? How long are you guys planning to do this?" And so that's a question I would ask if you're going to a firm. What's the runway? Wow. So those are a few things.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because you mentioned that ethics change over time. People's ethics do change as they grow and change. But do you see in situations like that, where there is sort of a generational gap between more experienced attorneys and, young bloods coming fresh out of law school, is there a sort of divide, not just in age, but is there a divide in ethics there that you see as well?
I wouldn't say maybe values, maybe. Certainly. I think it's an age-old trope, and I think every generation says it. So I'm Gen X. I know when we were coming up, they said we're the lazy bums, blah, blah, blah. Now that we're older, we're calling the younger generations the lazy bums. So there's always that element. And I sort of, I don't know how much weight I give it, but certainly I do think today's younger generation, it's different, especially after COVID. The old guard was used to coming in the office all the time. The younger folks want to stay at home, do it virtual.
Right.
I personally think in person is more valuable for the younger people than maybe they give weight to. And I'll give you an example for those that may want to push back on me. Because they always say, well, you can just train me the same. I'm more productive at home. They give all these things. That may be true, but the friends that I made and the connections I made from being in the office 15, 20 years ago still pay dividends to me today. I get referrals from those people that I went to lunch with, or I walk down the hall and shot the, I don't know if I can cuss on this, but shot the bull with. We got to know each other. We got to go in there and make fun of the partner down the hall. It's just the camaraderie you get. It's the soft skills you get, and just being in the office, it will pay dividends to you. The opportunities that you will get that others that were virtual or maybe not in the office all the time, they're not going to get. And I don't care how much we could talk virtually like this every day for the next 2 years, but it would be probably 30 minutes to an hour at a time. All the in between, we would not have the connection that we would have if we were in the same office. Absolutely. I don't think you can dispute that.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I'm a millennial and I want my participation trophy. But there is that divide there. It's funny. I've got, nieces and nephews, I was just the other day, my nephew was complaining about homework. And I started to realize I was giving him the old man speech. And I was like, I had to do this before there was Chat GPT. You know,
They're going to be calling you boomer before you know it.
that's it. Started feeling my hair gray a little at the temples. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But you know, it is a very interesting thing how that progresses. And you know, just talking about, you know, like I mentioned, Chat GPT, that emerging technology, is there sort of an emerging, you know, with the new emerging technology, do you think that that's led to any sort of divide in law firm owners? You know, that someone wants to take advantage of some new tech or some new process or procedure, and an older guard isn't willing to go down that route?
I don't personally know that, but because I have not personally seen it or talked to someone,
Sure.
but I think that is probably the case. I think there are firms out there like that. I have heard where some firms that are sort of old school, they're so scared of AI that they just forbid the use of it.
Sure.
But everybody's using it. Everybody, if you're under 35, everybody's using it anyway.
Right.
So be careful. In the law, it's particularly, AI is particularly I don't know, controversial, I'll say,
Right.
because in the legal research realm, it's got a ways to go, and it hallucinates fake cases. And there's all these,
Wow.
yeah, there's been a bunch of really high profile instances where lawyers have filed briefs with court with fake cases in there, and they've gotten sanctioned, and you know, all sorts of bad things. And it has scared a lot of law firms, but they view AI as, you do brief writing and legal research, and that's all they look at it at. But there's this whole other world operationally and marketing and all these things you can use AI for that are incredible. And that's really where I think the law firms that are really pioneering are way down the path. And there's some really cool stuff people are doing. Really cool.
Can you share with us? I'm interested. You know, can you share with us, when you think back on all of the business owners and law firm owners that you have helped through Law Firm GC, is there one that you really saw sort of a positive transformation in as a result of your help and guidance?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't speak specifics because of confidentiality.
Right.
But there are a couple that I can think of that have told me that I really helped. I mean, really helped. And they've told me that. And I really have a soft spot for them, and really sort of proud of the work we did to
That's
really
great.
help them where they are. And that's what makes this so fulfilling and fun. So absolutely.
That's amazing. And we've talked some about Law Firm GC. I would like to talk a little bit about the Founding Partner podcast.
Sure.
When did you decide that you wanted to launch a podcast? How did that come about?
So I've been a consumer podcast forever. And I wanted to start one. Let me think back, maybe 10 or 11 years ago. Is when I really wanted to start one. But back then it was hard. It was really hard. You had to get the equipment. It was hard to figure out. Nowadays, you got vendors. It's way easier now than it was then. So I didn't do it then because it just seemed like it was going to be, I would have to do the editing, all the stuff. It would have just been too much.
Right.
But I never let go of that desire to do it. And so about 2.5 years ago, it just kept pushing and pushing. I was like, I'm going to do this. And so I did it, and it's been fun. And, you know, part of it is you got to figure out the concept, and then, you know, figure out how you're going to do it, to get the guests, and then get the back end and all that sort of figured out. I had some good vendors that helped me, and it's been fun. I mean, it's been really fun. I've gotten to meet people that I would not have otherwise met. I've learned a ton. But you know this, you got to find the guests. It is a
That's
treadmill that once you're on it, you can't get off. And if you commit to doing it every week, that's the other thing. You got to do it. If you're going to do it, you got to be consistent.
That's right.
You can't.
Yeah. And it's always important to let the guests know when they're going live, right?
Well, you to be fair, you did tell me right before we went on, so that's good.
And I'm curious, just to, and I'm not trying to steal anything from your podcast, but I'm curious, is there maybe a great, like a good lesson or something that you learned as a result of hosting your own podcast that you could share with our listeners? I know that's a loaded question, right?
I've learned a ton. So certainly I stopped listening to myself. I know I have some verbal tics that I probably need to fix. That may be one thing I need to do, but I've gotten more comfortable talking. So that's a plus. I think I've gotten better at interviewing and really bringing out the guest, because mine is an interview show, just like this one. And really the focus is on the guest, not me. And so it is a skill. The interviewing is a skill. And I know when I first started, I was nervous. I was scared shitless. I was like, man, I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to say something stupid. And just the act of doing it, you just get better a little bit each day. So
that's it. Well, Jonathan, this has been an absolutely incredible conversation. This has been great talking with you. If anybody out there listening could use the help of Law Firm GC or would like to tune into the podcast, where can people find you?
So the best place probably, well, let me give you my website first. It's www.lawfirmgc.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn. And so I post there several times a week, 4 to 7 times a week. That's a great place to find me. Reach out, follow me there. Founding Partner Podcast is wherever you can get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Please, if you're interested, go check it out. We, talk to lawyers, but if you're a business owner, probably lessons in there, because we talk about hiring and firing and culture and just the cash flow and the lessons that you need to learn to grow a business. So please check it out, give it a follow, give it a 5-star if you like it.
Amazing. Everybody, go listen to Jonathan's podcast, Founding Partner Podcast. Do it. And Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been great.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you everyone for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Jonathan, thank you so much again.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.